On June 25, 2025, the world was jolted awake by explosions across central Iran. The United States had launched Operation Midnight Hammer, a precise strike on Iran's most fortified nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. These facilities were the backbone of Iran's nuclear ambitions, feared to be on the verge of producing weapons-grade uranium. The attack followed an IAEA report confirming Iran had crossed the 90% enrichment threshold, a red line for Washington. The White House called the strike a necessary measure to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran and protect global security. Years of failed diplomacy and mounting provocations had led to this moment. As dawn broke, Iran's state media shifted from denial to outrage, while U.S. officials claimed the nuclear program had been set back by years. The world now faced a shattered diplomatic framework and the looming threat of unpredictable retaliation. Operation Midnight Hammer had destroyed more than facilities. It upended the fragile balance of power. The world held its breath, uncertain of what would follow. Operation Midnight Hammer showcased the full spectrum of American military might. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, armed with massive ordnance penetrators, flew undetected into Iran, targeting deeply buried nuclear sites. Navy Growler jets jammed Iranian defenses while Cyber Command disrupted communications and power grids. Tomahawk missiles from submarines struck air defenses and command centers, clearing the way for bombers. Months of intelligence gathering enabled pinpoint strikes on centrifuge halls and uranium feed lines, crippling Iran's enrichment process. The operation lasted under 2 hours, with seamless coordination between air, naval, and cyber forces. For Iran, the attack exposed the vulnerability of its most secure assets. For the world, it was a stark reminder of America's unmatched ability to project power. The message was clear: no facility was beyond reach. Each targeted site was vital to Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Fordow, buried deep in a mountain, was Iran's last resort enrichment plant, now entombed. Natanz, the industrial heart, housed thousands of centrifuges. Its destruction crippled Iran's enrichment capacity. Isfahan converted raw uranium into gas for enrichment. Its loss severed the supply chain at its source. Together, these sites formed an interlocking system for producing enriched uranium. The simultaneous strikes dismantled Iran's nuclear ambitions in a single night. The US demonstrated a deep understanding of Iran's program, targeting not just hardware, but the entire architecture. The destruction of these pillars was a strategic blow, not just a tactical one. Iran's nuclear program was left in ruins. In the aftermath, satellite images revealed leveled buildings and collapsed tunnels at all 3 sites. Western intelligence assessed that over 80% of Iran's centrifuges were destroyed or inaccessible. Without Isfahan, Iran lacked the feedstock to restart enrichment, compounding the setback. Experts estimated the program was set back at least 5 to 7 years, possibly a decade. Fears of a nuclear disaster proved unfounded. IAEA inspectors found no large-scale radiological release. However, toxic chemicals from Isfahan caused local health crises and environmental damage. Iran faced a monumental challenge. Rebuilding would require money, technology, and expertise now out of reach due to sanctions. The physical destruction was only the beginning. The loss of human capital and supply chains would haunt Iran for years. Operation Midnight Hammer had not just bombed facilities, it had crippled Iran's nuclear future. The world watched, bracing for the next move. The world's response was immediate and divided. US allies like the UK and Australia offered cautious support, while France and Germany warned of dangerous escalation. Russia and China condemned the strike as illegal, demanding UN action. In the Middle East, Israel was silent but suspected of aiding the operation. Saudi Arabia and the UAE blamed Iran for provoking the crisis. At the UN, the US defended its actions as self-defense, vetoing resolutions of condemnation. The Security Council was paralyzed, unable to bridge the divide. Iran's leadership vowed revenge, withdrew from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and mobilized regional proxies. The US responded by deploying more forces, raising the risk of direct confrontation. The region braced for retaliation, with tensions at a boiling point. The world stood on the edge of a wider conflict. The aftermath left the world teetering between renewed diplomacy and the threat of war. Iran's retaliation was expected to be asymmetric. Cyber attacks, proxy strikes, or attempts to disrupt oil shipping in the Persian Gulf. The risk of a wider conflict loomed, especially if the Strait of Hormuz was targeted. With Iran out of the NPT, a secret nuclear program became more likely, raising fears of future, even riskier strikes. Diplomatic efforts continued behind the scenes, with Oman and Switzerland relaying messages and the EU pushing for de-escalation. A proposed freeze-for-freeze deal, no Iranian retaliation in exchange for no further US strikes, was on the table, but trust was scarce. Hardliners on both sides called for confrontation, making compromise elusive. The world faced a stark choice. Was this a necessary act to prevent nuclear war, or the start of something far worse? As of June 25, 2025, the situation remained volatile and unresolved. The coming weeks would decide whether Operation Midnight Hammer brought security or unleashed chaos.